Hey everyone, it's Terry with Terry's Tidbits. The Sales Cloud Consultant Study Group has met, and I have been really slow at getting the videos posted for you, so I'm going to post a couple of them here in the next couple of days to get it caught up. But this particular video is regarding the application product knowledge. So making sure that you understand what the product's about. And so we talk about sales process, we talk about build versus buy, and we talk about teams. So if you're studying for the exam, take a look at this video.
Okay, and you guys can see my slides. Okay, so my section was application of product knowledge, buy versus build. I feel like this is kind of a standard. It's on several tests. So I just went through what it means to buy versus what it means to build, and then some of the considerations. So to buy, I know almost everybody is probably familiar with the App Exchange, but you can buy a third-party application through App Exchange. They are from ISVs, which is an independent software vendor. There are many applications for almost anything you can think of available. Some of them have a subscription fee. Some of them are free. You can install them right into your sandbox. You can also install them into production, but not recommended. You can install it and then verify it against your use cases. So it's a pretty quick fix for something. They may not be configurable, so they many times are in a managed package. So you cannot go in and customize or configure anything in that. But the vendors also may release new updates for the new releases as they come out, or fixing bugs, that type of thing. The support is provided by the app vendor. They may also have an option to purchase a higher level of support if you need something. They are usually scalable. They are designed to work with large data sets. And also just a kind of tip here, check the reviews and the ratings. You can always see what other people are saying about the apps, whether they work well for the solution or not. And then some of them also have demos. You can either just watch like recorded demos, or some of them you can sign up for live demos. And then on the other side, we have build. So this is a custom built solution to meet your business requirements. So this is you going in and building custom objects, fields, automations, tabs, that type of thing. The cost here is going to be your time spent, and it can be a higher cost if you are building it from scratch. You are taking the time to gather and document the requirements, build the solution declaratively based on those requirements, and then or having a developer build some code and testing it. It can be customized or changed because you're building it, so it can do whatever you want it to do. But you also need to consider who's going to own the custom application, who's going to own those updates and changes and maintenance as time goes by. Support is all internal because, again, this is something custom that you have built. And you need to consider scalability as time goes on. Things are going to change. New releases are going to come out that you're going to have to account for. And it also goes against your your limits for custom objects, tabs, that type of thing. So some considerations when you're looking at buy versus build. This is from a Salesforce, a Dreamforce presentation. There was a video, and I have the link to it at the end. It's in the study guide. But these are the things that they talked about. So complexity, requirements, resources, and budget. So the first one is complexity. How complex is the request? What are you being asked to do? How skilled are your users? So if you build something, are they going to be able to use it easily? If you're looking at an app, is it really user-friendly? How complex is your org already? Things that you're adding in, is it something that you can easily add in, or do you have a lot going on? And then how skilled are you as an admin to be able to build something? Requirements. So the current requirements are time frame or turnaround time. Is this something that needs to be fixed yesterday and you need to get it in place right now? Or is this something that you can take the time to gather the key requirements, get the stakeholders involved, and actually build something? And then in the future, also, I mentioned before, but consider updates and maintenance. Who's going to be responsible for those? How often will it be updated? If you're using an app, are those updates manual, or do you have to go in and update that app each time? And how will the solution grow? So again, the scalability of it. And then resources. Is this something that you can actually do? Do you know how to do it? Do you need additional resources? Do you need a developer to write some code to make the solution work? And then is this something that other companies might need? Something that somebody else has probably already solved this issue, so it might be available in the App Exchange. And then budget. This might be the most important consideration in many companies. If there's no money, then you can't buy anything. But you also have to balance that hard cost of an application, a third-party application, versus the man hours that you would put in to build something custom. So it talked about scenarios. So I have a couple scenarios here. The first one is a company wants to implement an application for Salesforce, but it does not have an internal IT team. So in that scenario, we're looking at an App Exchange solution because they don't have somebody internal to build and maintain. The next scenario is a company that has a low budget and they're looking for a solution to integrate their company's email domain with Salesforce to allow creating opportunity records from emails. There are several different App Exchange apps that are available to do that out of the box. And they are usually within that low budget range. And the third one here, I have a company has an internal development team and needs a custom sales app that uses declarative features. At that point, they have the resources. They can develop that custom app. And then here are the resources that I used. There was a Trailhead on the App Exchange, and then the video that I talked about was a Dreamforce presentation. It's also in the trail for studying for this exam. Any questions? I know it was kind of straightforward.
Talk to me a little about the difference between a managed package on App Exchange and an unmanaged.
Okay, yeah, that was one thing I was meaning to put in here, but I didn't have the time. So I did mention managed package a little bit. A managed package is something you download and you cannot customize it. So it is managed by the vendor who makes it. You can't make any changes to it. Now, an unmanaged package is kind of a hybrid solution there. So you download it and then you can customize it. You can make some changes to it if you need to within your org.
Very good. Can you go back to your slide that had some of the scenarios? I'm kind of going from memory from some of what I've seen on different exam questions, and often the question is similar to these, where they will give you a scenario and you'll have the option of selecting whether or not you would go to App Exchange or if you would do a custom build type scenario. So I think this is really good the way you've got this laid out, and some of the considerations that would go into that decision. So nice, very nicely done here. Any other questions?
This particular topic, I think, has a lot of common sense to it as far as the questions go. And so should be hopefully a fairly straightforward one for you. All of this is a part of the application knowledge section, and that's 18% of the overall exam. So this is the topics for today, and the topics for next week is a good chunk of your overall exam. So it's good to know the different products and things like this that are related to that. So awesome. Very good job. Any other questions before I jump in and start talking to you guys? Right, so let me share my screen, and I'm going to first talk about teams and the different teams that are options within Salesforce. So hopefully you're able to see my screen. I don't have slides that I'm going to prepare here because I didn't have time to prepare something for you since these are other people's topics. But so let me kind of just walk you through some of the things that I think are going to be important for you to understand about teams. First, let me ask the question, how many of you have actually used either a sales team or account teams in your orgs? I see those of you on video. There's several of you. Okay, good. There's, correct me if I'm wrong, but there are 3 places that you can have teams in Salesforce. It's the account, the opportunity, and cases. Does that sound right? I don't think there's any other spot that uses teams. I think it's those 3. And cases operates it slightly different than the way that account and opportunity teams work. So I want to start off with, they do have to be enabled. So if you go over into setup and we look at teams, you will see account teams. And that does have to be, if it comes up, it does have to be enabled. And when it's enabled, these items will show up for you. You do have the ability to turn it off too if you need to. Opportunity teams should be, there it is, team settings. Also has to be enabled, and it can also be turned off if needed. And then case teams are the one that's slightly different in that it's a predefined team. So if you understand account and opportunity teams, they're almost identical, sort of. But case teams is done just a little bit different in that opportunity teams and account teams are specific to the user or to the owner of the record. So I, as a Salesforce user, have the ability on my user record to define my team. So this would be a group of people who I specifically work with that I can then predefine on my user record. Case team is more of an org-wide like level. So there, the admin is coming in and saying, we have these various teams that can be added to a case and they can serve a certain role. The example that I've got for you is I set up a case team that are basically like my flow experts. And so if I've got a case that's related to flow, I can add that team to that case. And then I've got access to all of the flow experts in my org. So it's a little bit different. Accounts and opportunities, it's user specific. Cases is more, I think of it more like subject matter experts that you would define and pull into a specific case. Does that make sense there? Slightly different in the way they operate. So I've got on my user record, I've got my default team, and for opportunities and for accounts, it's a little difficult to demo this in a dev org, but you kind of get the idea here that when I define my team, so in this case, I've added Kylie as my to be a part of my default account team, and I can give her specific access rights to the account, to the opportunity and to cases, and I can define her role. Now, one little interesting nuance to teams is that you cannot give somebody less access than what your org-wide defaults already are set to. So in this particular org, I don't have, everything's basically public read-write. So I can't give Kylie read-only access to an opportunity. It will yell at me because she naturally, by the org defaults, has read-write. Okay, so that is one nuance there to be aware of. And the way this would work is now, if I'm looking at an opportunity, I'll have the ability to have a related list called opportunity teams. And I can simply say, add my default team. And if this works like it should, Kylie comes on with her specific role, and she'll have the access that is then defined based off of my user setting. If I jump in here and edit this, she should have read-write access. If I jump back over to the account level, I have account teams, and I can add my default team. That adds are in here then as well. And if I edit this, you'll see that we have all of the access controls there as well. So teams, in my opinion, they're not as helpful in a org like this where it's already everything's read-write. It's mostly helpful when you're trying to help to extend visibility to things that somebody doesn't have access to. A good example for like an account team or even an opportunity team, let's say you have both an inside sales team and an outside sales team. You've got your road warriors who are out selling. Almost always those people are tagged or paired up with some internal staff as well that support them. That's a perfect use case for setting up an opportunity team. Sometimes that could be even an account team. It just kind of depends on where you need to control that access. So inside and outside sales, great opportunity to use teams. That lets the outside sales rep be the record owner, and then their internal people it's kind of like they get tagged or they tag along with the record owner on everything that they do. So that gives them then that added visibility.
Gary, I have a use case where I was at a bank and we had read access, but the account teams were used for there was a team of private client advisors. There was the private banker, it's like a team selling model, and the account teams were used so that those other team members could pull a report of their accounts where they're a team member. So it's kind of like visibility that way to pull up a list view, or not a list view, but a report that would give you a list of your accounts. Yeah.
No, that's a great use case too. I've seen it where in organizations as well, where there are multiple salespeople in different divisions, and the primary account owner might be the record owner, but then other sales teams are defined by using the account team in that team role for different areas of the business is another common use case. Yes, Ulan.
I have two questions. One, can we automate the process of assigning my default team?
Yes. Yes is the answer to that. So if I come in here and I edit my default team, I've got a checkbox right here that says automatically add my default team to accounts that I've created or transferred to me. That I believe is also, and you can see there's a checkbox too to add all of my existing ones. I think that same functionality is on the opportunity team as well. I love some of the consistencies when Salesforce has them. Teams is one of them. The next topic that we're going to talk about is sales processes. It follows kind of the same. There's a lot of consistencies. You learn one, you learn them both, or in that case, all three of them. Let's see. That's opportunity teams. I got myself lost in what I was talking about. So opportunities. I think there's, there you can see there as well.
So
Update existing
will my team lose access to the opportunities if the ownership is transferred?
Yes. I am pretty certain that is a yes.
Okay. Thank you. And then the other question is, by creating opportunity teams or account teams, we are primarily behind the scenes talking about sharing the record. So, and this question may not be relevant from the certification perspective, but then why did Salesforce come up with opportunity share and account share if things can be done by account team and opportunity team?
Account and opportunity share, meaning from like a sharing rules. I think that
when you think about the account team, you can actually see it on the record, like you have that visibility. Whereas like sharing rules, you have to go like from an admin perspective and see who can see it. But the account team is visible for anybody. That's one thing I can think of.
Yeah, the thing that I was thinking there is that you don't want to have to set up sharing roles for every team. So Sulabh, if I was to be on every opportunity that you're on, you'd have to set up a sharing rule specifically for that. Where if you have just an opportunity team where I'm your teammate, I get it naturally that way. And sharing roles can slow a system down enormously if you start doing one-off type scenarios like that.
No. I definitely get this, but my question is more about account share record and opportunity share record. So when we create an account team record, Salesforce also creates an account share record.
Yeah.
And same thing applies on opportunity team and opportunity share.
Yeah. Okay. So let me see if I get what you're saying. So when I look at an account team, I've got the ability to set opportunity access teams here. It seems duplicative to the opportunity team. Why do we need both?
Yep.
Yeah. So I'm trying to think of a good use case. I like the fact that it gives us additional flexibility, but if I'm giving somebody access to the opportunity, I'm also giving them access to the account because it rolls up to that. I suppose it would allow me to give somebody read write on an opportunity. Can I do? I'm going to have to double check myself on this one. I was about to say I think it would allow me to make somebody read only at the account level and still be read write on an opportunity, but I'm not positive I can do that. I could be wrong on that one.
Okay, so if this is true, and we'll have to try this. If I own this account and you are my default account team and you are also on my opportunity team, now if my opportunity is transferred to Meredith, probably then you will be removed from my default opportunity team. But I still own the account. So now will you have access to the opportunity or will you not? Maybe you will not if you are
I'm on
your opportunity team, but you still have the access.
Yeah, if I'm on your account team and you still have access to that opportunity, then I would as well. And unless we are, and I can't here, but unless it goes, we select private, then I would only see it if you're the owner.
Yes.
So I think it's time that you take the sharing and visibility architecture exam.
Yeah, this gets into some really some of this is advanced admin stuff too. If you've taken the advanced admin, you're going to get hit with a lot of these kinds of questions. And there's some interesting nuances as far as precedence, which one is going to override the other in some of this. And I'd have to go back and probably refresh my own memory on some of them. Does that help a little bit?
Yes.
I doubt that you're going to get too heavy into some of those kinds of questions on this exam. I think this exam is probably more focused on the capability of having the feature, as opposed to tell me if Sulabh can still see this record based off of this scenario.
Okay. But do I need to remember how to enable these features? Will
Yes,
they get to
I
that
think
level?
so.
Okay.
Yeah, I would be aware of the fact that they have to be enabled. I'd be aware of the fact that you can have them auto added, have the default teams auto added. I would, and yeah, I think those are I think all within the realm of reason with this particular exam. I don't know 100%. I can't tell you the exact questions that you're going to run into on this exam, but I think given what it's attempting to have us learn here, I don't think it's as much about the who's going to have visibility as much as it is that the feature is there.
Okay.
And if it says describe the appropriate use cases for account and opportunity teams and the effect on sales roles, visibility, access, and reporting. So I think it's much more narrowly focused around what the features that it provides for us, less around the security visibility. So the fact that it's saying things like the effect on the sales roles, visibility, access, and reporting, that is, I think Meredith, you kind of hit on this a little bit as well. From if I were to go in and look at a list view, there is again, I don't think I have it because I don't have this org on private, but the ability to see things that I'm a team member of would show up as an option, I believe, on my list views, or I can set it up to show that.
Yeah, I think it might be a filter on the right, maybe if you go to all accounts.
Oh, there you go. My account team. Thank you. Yeah, perfect. Yeah. I love being on calls with smarter than me people. It's awesome. Very good.
Thanks, Terry. That's a huge compliment.
Awesome. Super. That makes sense. I think those are things you're going to need to know more so than it does specifically say visibility, but I don't think I don't think you're going to get into some of those weird nuances that you would see on sharing and visibility.
You see, okay. Branda had a question.
Oh, sorry. Yep. Is there an efficient way to add somebody to an opportunity team if they need to be added to several people's? You can data load it. It's I believe there's goodness, you're going to test my knowledge here, but I think that these are set up similar to groups and queues. I think I'm not. Let me double check that. I know you can data load it. I'm just not positive if you're going into the group object and group members and it's a type field that determines if it's a team. I know that things like queues and group and public groups are all loaded in the groups object, and there's a type field that distinguishes whether this is a queue or whether it's a public group. It feels like teams might be in that, but I could be wrong.
I think for opportunities, it's a custom object called op team member.
Yes, there is. The default team, though, I don't think uses that. That object is the specific is specific to your opportunity. So when you add your default team in, it's going to those objects. Yeah.
Oh, that would be good to know.
Give me a second. I can probably find the answer to that.
User account team member? No. What's that?
It might be. It may be if you see an object like that.
I just searched Trail.
Yep.
Yeah.
Here's where I'm at looking for these things. So when I want to see something about a specific object, I'll just go to Google and I'll search for Salesforce data model. It will bring up this particular screen, and it defaults you to the data model tab over here on the left-hand side. I don't really care for this view. It's nice if you want to see like a entity diagram kind of model. But I generally will skip the data model and I'll just go up to standard objects. And if you do that and expand that down, you'll get a list of every standard object in Salesforce. And so if I wanted to see account team, these are the fields that I have, and you can see that it's tied directly to an account. Now, if I wanted to see my default team, that might, and I was mentioning groups before, and I could be completely wrong, but here's group and group members. And I know that these support the queues and public groups, but there is a type, if I recall correctly. Yeah, type. And these are the different types of things that are supported in that group object. So there's quite a few things. There's queues, territories, which we'll talk about next week. Public groups, I think, are one of them in here. May not be called that exactly. Yeah, here it is. Oh, no, that's channels, public group for channels. Organization is public groups.
It looks like there's an object for opportunity team member on the left under the standard objects.
Opportunity team member. And I think this is probably going to have our opportunity ID in it, which means that this is the object that is, in essence, your related list off of your opportunity. So it's probably going to be, I didn't see it in groups, so I think I was wrong there. I'm going to guess it's going to be down here. Yeah, user team member is likely going to be the right answer. So there you've got your access that you can define. The owner is going to be your user ID. And then, user ID is the specific user. I'm not sure what owner is. And then your team member role. So there's probably also a user account team. Right there. So you could data load directly into those objects. I think that was the original question. If you wanted to load that. Yeah. So if you're not familiar with this data model, that's a good one to, I don't bookmark it because it's so simple to find it. Just again, type in Google Salesforce data model. It will bring you here every time. But and if you're kind of nerdy and you really like to know what's going on behind the scene, it's pretty interesting to read through some of these different objects that you might think, well, I never even heard of that one before. You can really learn a lot about how Salesforce is structured behind the scenes this way. Totally way off topic though for what we have for today, but it is still cool. Very cool. Any questions on Teams? Anything that I didn't cover on it related to Teams that might be important for those who have used it? All right. And I don't see David here yet. So let's talk about sales processes. Oh, that's interesting. I just realized it's sales process and not all processes. So, okay, so let's go back to Salesforce. Sales process. Where I was going to go and what I kind of alluded to earlier is there's three sections of Salesforce that have processes, and that's leads, cases, and opportunities or cells. and they all function identically. Learn one, you learn all. They're just associated to different objects. So here, a sales process really simply allows me to choose what my stages are for a given process. And then it also will be tied to a specific record type. So when I define my record types, I will, on my opportunity, it will also ask or prompt me to select a sales process. It's a pretty simple concept. I don't think I could spend a whole heck of a lot of time talking about it any further than that, because it's really about that basic. So the process itself is a selection of your stages, which stages are related to this process. And then when you go over to your opportunities, and if you have record types on your opportunities, I don't know if I do. I've got a default one. The record type here is also going to be tied. You can see right there. It's tied to a sales process. So why would you ever do something like that? Why do you need multiple sales processes? Perhaps, let's say you've got maybe multiple sales channels that you use. So maybe you've got a sales channel that is more of a retail type model. Maybe you have a sales channel where you are working through distributors. The stages that you're going to be tracking could be very different if I'm working with a consumer who could be just a simple, almost like a point of sale where I go up to a register and I just buy it and it's done. Where if I'm working with a distributor, it might be that I've got some type of a longer sales process where I do have multiple stages that I need to run things through. That would be a good scenario where you would have two different sales processes, because your stages, again, are going to be different. You can still overlap the same stage across multiple sales processes. So I could have negotiating as an option in all of my sales processes, but I can also have very unique ones in each of the processes. Does that make sense? Anybody use multiple sales processes in your org? I love you do. What's your use case scenario?
Different line of businesses using the same object.
Yeah. Yeah, that's another good one. Whereas I use multiple channels, lines of business would be another good option. Yeah.
The one challenge which I see by using multiple sales processes is when I have to create a single report for the senior leadership at how my opportunities are doing, since the stages are different. X does not relate to Y.
Yeah, that is 100% true. What are some ways you can get around that?
What I have done is I have relied more on the probability or custom reports.
Yeah, probability is a good way to do it. If you can get even some of the stages to be the same, or at least get them to agree that that maybe you've got two stages that kind of sort of basically mean the same thing. If you can bring them together, which most of the time you can't, but if you can, people are weird. They're territorial with their namings, but sometimes you can get away with that. And, maybe team A has just a lot more stages than team B does. And if we can coordinate some level of consistency between it, that can be helpful. But probability was what I was thinking too. So
I thought of using bucketing, what do they say? Bucket fields?
Yep.
Bucketing.
Yep. On your reports, bucket fields would work. Yep. Good point. Anybody else using multiple sales processes? Anyone have questions related to those? It's kind of one of those that's it pretty much is what it is. It's kind of cut and dry.
So if I have question in my certification exam that if there is a stage which is available on, if there is a stage value on the stage pick list, but I do not see it, what is the right answer? Go and check the record type or go and check the sales process?
I would start at the record type. I don't think you're going to get a question of which one is the right one there, because it could be either. Those have been through some of my groups here before. You've heard me say this, is that when you get a question on the exam, one of the things that they drilled into our heads as we would write questions, or we would do some of the analysis of some of the questions and answers, is an answer has to be 100% right before it will ever pass the subject matter experts review. And the wrong answers have to be 100% wrong. So you won't find, some people will say, well, they write tricky questions. It's like, well, they're not intended to be tricky. But there is a difference between, sometimes a single word can make a difference between a right and a wrong answer. But every option on your multiple choice exams, it's either going to be 100% right or it's 100% wrong for that question. So I don't think you're going to get something quite like that, Sulabh, because it could be, unless it's a choose two scenario, because it could be either one of those.
Yeah.
Yeah, you shouldn't see which is better or, that line of questioning. What is the more appropriate way to set something up? You should not ever see a question like that. It's either going to be right or it's going to be wrong.